What's up, Shaman King fans? Welcome to What's the Difference, where I compare a media's various different adaptations. And in terms of the Shaman King edition, we've been comparing the manga to the 2001 anime and the 2021 anime. We briefly had to put the 2001 anime on pause as the contents of the manga that were adapted in the 2021 anime were never adapted into the 2001 anime, and that's the backstory of how Yo met Anna. However, it was adapted into a drama CD that used the 2001 cast's voice actors. But considering how the 2001 anime kind of deviates in terms of its portrayal of how past a certain point, and as it started to wrap up by the time they reached this content, it didn't really serve any purpose to include that in the 2001 anime, so adding it as a brief aside was probably their best bet. But by this point, we pretty much reached almost to completion all the things that the 2001 anime could adapt aside from the final battle with Hao, which takes a completely different turn in the original anime. However, where we are currently in both adaptations, Ren has been greatly injured by the minions of Hao. And whereas in the original anime, it's Faust who is doing his best to heal Ren and bring him back from the brink of death, in the original manga series and the newer anime, Ren basically died. And it was only through sacrificing his spot in the Shaman fight that Yo was able to save his friend. But what all adaptations have in common is that by this point, Hao has essentially said to hell with the Shaman fight, as he was going to win one way or the other. And with the power he's managed to obtain, he's doing things his way. Although in the original anime he chose to just go after the Great Spirit, and in the manga and newer anime, he's had his minions out harvesting the souls of Shaman fight contestants to feed them to the Spirit of Fire. What will happen next? Let's find out. As we pick up with Volume 20 of the manga, and we are at Chapter 177, Epilogue. For the original anime, we're at Episode 60, titled Friend. And for the newer anime, we're at Episode 34, To Be King. Something not included in the newer anime is Yo looking over the cliffside as the allies who actually admired Yo's choice contemplate what Yo must be feeling about him giving up his dreams. But the thing that Yo is actually worried about is the fact that Anna is going to kill him. So a little bit of comedy that was basically cut out. Now, as we pick up with the newer anime, we have the aftermath of Yo telling Amidamaru of his backstory, as well as the bond that Hao shared with Masamune, someone who Yo admired. But despite the fact that Yo is out of the Shaman fight, he sees it as no longer having to fight pointless battles, and the real mission objective, which Anna knows, is to defeat Hao, which is a promise Yo made to Masamune. However, because of the promise that Yo made to Anna, it leaves Anna with the question of where Yo's priorities ultimately lie. And Yo knows that he kind of betrayed Anna to a certain degree, and of course he gets slapped down. But Anna ultimately also understands where he's coming from and why he needs to do what he needs to do. And, it's the reason why she loves him. But she knows that the real battle starts now. This is where things get really difficult. Although, funny enough, they do leave out Anna saying, if you're not going to be Shaman King, you'll have to build me a fancy inn where I can live in comfort. I guess a little bit of pettiness that they didn't want lingering around in the moment. They also don't include Amidamaru's lament about how Yo was essentially born to defeat Hao. And now knowing that he's living up to a very lasting legacy from Masamune, Amidamaru now wants to live up to that legacy as Yo's new spirit, the new kind of spirit of the sword that Masamune previously was. We then pick up in all versions with the attempt to save Ren. And whereas it is the X-Laws who are attempting to revive Ren with the use of Iron Maiden Jean, in the original anime, Lyserg comes to the aid of his previous friends in order to give them enough time to help and heal Ren. So in all versions, the X-Laws essentially help, but in the original anime, Lyserg isn't really so much of an X-Law at this point. The X-Laws are pretty much no more, as here Iron Maiden Jean has essentially lost her power. So in order to bring back Ren, Faust, Ryu, and Chocolove try to infuse their Furyoku into Ren to basically, I guess, accelerate his healing, while Lyserg holds off the minions of Hao with the new power he's obtained. This one last final stand, and a way of kind of making amends for turning his back on all of them. And so with the new power that Lyserg has managed to obtain, with Morphine merging with all of the X-Law's various different angels, she has become this greater spirit overall. And interestingly enough, over the course of the manga and this episode of the newer anime, you find that merging spirits actually does increase your power. Even if your Furyoku level isn't high, merging various different spirits together gives you enough power to overcome odds. It kind of all depends on if the spirits are willing to work with you and not overwhelm your body. With Lyserg even taking a hit in order to save all of them, and they end up in a very desperate situation as Lyserg is overwhelmed, which is a stark contrast to the manga and newer anime, as Marco suggests not reviving Ren, just leaving him to die, which most of the other X-Laws agree with, as Marco sees Ren as an agent of chaos because he murdered a patch official. But Jean isn't like that. She made a promise to Yo and she wants to fulfill it, even if he is the brother of Hao, which is something that Marco takes some offense to, but he ultimately does agree with Jean, but it comes with a bit of a caveat. Should Ren wake up and try something, they will immediately execute him, something which Jean agrees to ultimately because, she'll have fulfilled their promise. But Basson knows that Marco's up to something deeper. We then pick up with chapter 178, Epilogue 2, although I should note that depending on which version of the Shaman King manga that you're reading, the chapters might be a little bit different, as this was at the point where the author was kind of reworking some things, so the previous chapter would have been where to go from here, and the next one, this one, would be Team Ren Purified. And some sequences happen a little bit out of order, but I think it's a bit for the best. Whereas the manga picks up with Ren having a flashback to when he encountered Chroma, and then goes into Manta and Ryu heading over to make sure that the X-Laws uphold their side of the bargain. And this is a moment where it's just good on Manta for wanting to make sure they don't try anything. Something that is left out, and it's probably for the best, is Ryu thinking about Jean's chastity belt and also thinking about Lyserg. But not having that kind of leaves out the context of Ryu saying they're gonna go see some babes, which is Ryu talking about Jean and Lyserg. Ryu has some weird priorities. It's then that you get the flashback to Ren versus Chroma, which I actually kind of prefer this sequencing. I think it's just a little bit better. They do cut out a little bit of the dialogue of Chrome and Ren, with Chrome saying that at the moment they were at, Ren actually had the most Furyoku/mana out of most of the contestants, which Ren had actually seen it as an insult because he would settle for nothing but being the absolute best. And so that's why he actually wanted to go in and kill Chrome, because he felt that Chrome was insulting his pride. They also cut out Marco kind of reaffirming and justifying him wanting to end Tao Ren as a brutal murder. But we get a little bit of the fight between Ren and Chrome, and Ren is trying dirty tactics in order to defeat him, and Chrome sees how dangerous Ren can be. But we also pick up with Ren's soul kind of in a limbo state where he's wavering between the world of the living and the afterlife. Also live nude Ren and all that good stuff. But he's also kind of consumed with the memory of Chrome. And honestly, Ren had already kind of won the fight because he got it hidden on Chrome, and Chrome tried to kind of lecture him. It's just like, you gotta understand your opponent. If all you do is look down on them, you might end up being surprised by what they can do. But Ren continues to take this as an insult. And while Chrome thinks, okay, this is the end of the fight, you got what you wanted, you get the Oracle Bell, if you keep training you might get it even better. Chrome is trying to encourage him, and Ren saw it as an insult and killed him just then and there. With his guard down, with his defenses gone, Chrome was not going to fight back anymore, and Ren just ended him right then and there. Not wanting someone's approval and not wanting a handout, just wanting to take what he needed. And the present Ren, realizes how much of a sin he committed, how weak he actually was, and how it's a weird kind of retribution that he kind of allowed. He let himself get stabbed. He let himself die in the presence of Chrome's brother as, kind of this, him giving in and knowing he did wrong. But with Yo withdrawing from the Shaman fight to save him is something that Ren cannot accept. And so he would rather be ended right there on the spot if that's what it takes in order to save his life. I think I'm a little bit off with the alternate titles of some of these, as I think it was that the end of Osorazan was the Epilogue, 178 was Epilogue 2, which was renamed Where to Go From Here, and Chapter 179 was Epilogue 2 Ablutions, where it was renamed Team Ren Purified. Honestly, I kind of prefer them not just calling it epilogues, but I think this was Hiroyuki trying to bring his series to a bit of an end. Like, there are multiple times where it feels like he's trying to end his series almost prematurely. So that's the end of Volume 20. We then enter into Volume 21 with Chapter 180, depending on the version you're looking at. This is Epilogue 2 First Kiss, or it's just titled First Kiss. And something that the manga actually kind of makes clear, that image of Ren trying to get Marco to just end his life, that was Ren's spirit kind of trying to do that. But because I guess he's so far between the living and the dead, Marco can't see his spirit. That's me trying to reason this. But newer anime completely cuts out Ren desperately trying to get Basson to not have him brought back to life, with Ren desperately trying to make it so that Yo doesn't withdraw from the Shaman fight. But then we have the arrival of Tokugaru and Ryu, who had been with Tokugaru having scoped things out, and they're overlooking everything. And it's funny, it's weird that they completely cut out the ghostly visage of Ren overlooking things, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because ultimately Ren's ghost isn't really able to stop any of this. So I guess it makes sense not to include something that ultimately has no bearing on what happens next, as Iron Maiden Jean tells the story of Sleeping Beauty, hinting that what will awaken the near-death Ren will be a kiss. And see, there you have Ghost Ren just kind of hanging out. So I guess you could have had that dialogue of him trying to find some way of stopping his revival. And Jean proceeds with the ritual to revive him. And then comes Ryu trying to get a kiss himself. very selfishly, but it's actually a kiss from Shamash. And while Marco tries to execute someone else, Ren's revival happens and he's kind of mad that Ryu couldn't have interrupted things sooner. Ren has been revived. And he's so mad he just kind of blows off the fact that Marco feels like he should be grateful that Jean had the mercy to revive him. And whereas Marco tries to go in and chew Ren out, Ren's just like, I didn't ask for your help. It's actually a nuisance. So Marco tries to kill him, and Ren just shows off his increased power now that he's been revived. Because he was near death, he has even greater strength than before, and he thanks Yo for his sacrifice. Meanwhile, in the original anime, where Lyserg's about to be killed by the forces of Hao, Ren is revived, and he manages to completely dominate over Hao's forces. I love this moment though because Ren's character song starts playing and Ren just postulates. It's just like, I would never be defeated by the likes of you, despite the fact that he was. And so, whereas Ren in the manga has actually thanks Yo for what he did, in the original anime, he apologizes to his friends for, worrying them, for letting his guard down by, leaving them in such a desperate state. So both are trying to mark a noticeable change in Ren. And Ren, having found and discovered the power of friendship, manages to completely demolish everybody else was struggling with previously. I don't think they really explained that because he was so near death, he was able to unlock this greater power. So it just kind of seems like he just put in more effort, kind of. Meanwhile, in the manga and newer anime, Ren had completely dominated over all of the angels of the Epilogue. But Marco takes it as a win since Yo is no longer in the Shaman fight. We then enter into chapter 181, which is either Epilogue 3 or Stronger Than Ever, where we pick up with Yo apologizing to Amidamaru for everything that happened. But Amidamaru is just happy to have, gotten to know Yo a little bit better. Ren then arrives and is just mad that Yo kind of abandoned his dreams, but Yo is just happy that Ren is alive. And Ren is mad that he was brought back without his permission, basically. Yo isn't sorry that he brought him back. It's a nice little moment between Ren and Yo, almost solidifying their friendship. Also, Ren is left with a pretty big scar because of Ryu interrupting the healing process, but Ren is okay with it since it kind of interrupted the cycle of hatred he's had. He feels that it symbolizes him destroying the legacy of violence of the Tao family. Well, the legacy of violence, I guess I should say. And he still wants to make amends for what he did to Necrom. It's symbolic of him wanting to atone for his wicked deeds in the past. And Yo's fine with that as long as he doesn't get himself killed again. Meanwhile, we pick up with Horo and Chocolove, and yeah, it's not working. Chocolove is trying his best to bring Horo back, but nothing he does is working. They do cut out Horo apologizing to Chocolove. We're just kind of dismissing him, which I feel makes Horo come off as less of a jerk in this moment, but he's just so angry. The idea of him being just this weak creature, but then he sees a desperate scene of Big Guy Bill going after the Icemen, with him saying there's no going back to their normal life. They will become sustenance for Hao. And while Horo wants to go in and help out, Blocken tells him that their combined mana is 200,000. They do cut some of Blocken's explanation a little bit short. Well, Blocken and Big Guy Bill's explanation, with Big Guy Bill having 40,000 and Blocken have 160,000, with Iceman not really knowing what they're talking about in terms of mana value. But then Blockett explains why he has so much power. Because of losing most of his body, he's gained a powerful oversoul. And Big Guy Bill obtained a lot of Furyoku because of his run-in with the X-Laws. They also leave out the calculation of where the power levels of Team Iceman actually are, with Zora having 2200, Pino having 2400, and Tona having 2300, which is why they were able to overcome Horohoro so easily previously. He only has 2000. Well, no. It was, I can't remember if the 2000 was a combined between Horohoro and Chocolove, or they each had 2000. I'd say they probably had each 2000, just because I don't want to sell them short, but 1000, oof, that's rough. And Blocken tries to basically tell them that they're outmatched. And Horohoro realizes that going and helping them out would basically be suicide. But Horo is having a rough time overcoming this, as his belief of survival of the fittest, overrides a lot of any kind of compassion that he normally have. They also kind of cut out Horohoro flashing back to all the people who have died over the course of the Shaman fight so easily being overwhelmed. But Horohoro can't just give up. Although I love that even the Icemen are just like, kid, you're gonna get yourself killed. And Horohoro, he doesn't care. He wants to come in and help out. He's not one to give up on people in a pinch. Although Big Guy Bill reprimands him for not attacking with a surprise attack. But Horohoro says, you guys know how to ride the wave of Furyoku. You would have just dodged me. And so while Big Guy Bill goes in for the attack, Horohoro manages to use the technique of also riding the wave of Furyoku, really showing his resolve, feeling that he wants to try to catch up to both Yo and Ren. And so we end chapter 182, epilogue 3, Fool, or Number Dropper, and we enter into chapter 183, epilogue 3, Courage, or Foolishness and Courage, as Ren is trying to reaffirm his want to be Shaman King, but yeah, it's not looking too great. We also have Opachao informing how about what's going on. We also have this explanation about where How and his minions are hanging out at an old Japanese army fortress, but How is informed that Yo is out of the fight, and basically they've gotten what they needed from the X-Laws, wondering if they should go crush him, but How sees no need. Ultimately Yo will come after him regardless. This was kind of what How wanted. Yo to also no longer be going in for the Shaman fight. Now it's just a matchup between the two of them, and who will gain more and more power first. Also informed of Big Guy Bill and Blocken going after Horohoro and the Iceman, which How isn't interested in. We also see that Horohoro and Team Iceman have basically been completely dominated. They do also cut out Big Guy Bill explaining why he seems to be going a little bit easy on Horohoro, kind of as a favor for them helping him out back in America, but he's still going to kill him. He just kind of admires the fact that he was willing to just jump into an unwinnable situation. And also, they cut out Big Guy Bill wondering if this was an attempt to put himself in a near-death state so that Horohoro could increase his Furyoku. Some stuff that I actually think would have been good to include in the anime, but it's obvious they're trying to kind of cut things down for the sake of time that they have left. We also have Calum actually talking with Horohoro's father, who has arrived on the scene because of Parika. And Calum and her want him to intervene and help him out, but he's not interested. He's like, it's survival of the fittest. My son chose to pursue his dream, and what will happen will happen. Though they do cut out Calum's cry out for, hey, your son is definitely gonna die, and Horohoro's dad's just like, I can always have another son. The funny thing is, he's actually picking up, the Prian stuff right from the battlefield in order to make a raft to get off the island. But Big Guy Bill's just like, you're a shaman and you got a decent enough amount of mana. Are you looking to take me on? And Horohoro's dad's just like, I'm an office worker. So Bill's just like, okay, I'll harvest your soul then. And Horohoro's spirit manages to completely dominate Big Guy Bill. And he inadvertently kind of imparts some words to his son, not trying to say it directly, but it's just like, survival of the fittest doesn't mean resigning yourself to death, basically. That's his words of wisdom to his son. And Block is surprised because Big Guy Bill had so much more Furyoku than him, and that kind of makes him nervous. It's just like, we gotta kill these people. But Horohoro realizes what his father is saying, and why his father was actually able to take on someone much stronger than he should have been. And Calum questions Farika about their dad's spirit ally, and it's much like Kororo, it's a Koropokoro, who are normally very small, but he's a big guy for some reason. She leaves out some of the details. It's just like that the fact that the other Koropokoros are usually afraid of him because he's scary, but he's actually very kind, and he's a very powerful spirit. And Calum realizes, okay, that's why, because the spirit is so powerful. And it's the realization to all of them that if you have a powerful enough spirit ally, your own personal power, it's kind of negligible. And Blocken reveals his weird body, where he's a limbless torso inside of a bunch of blocks, essentially. But Horohoro couldn't care less, he just wants to get things done. So Blocken tries to go in on the attack, and he tries to get Horohoro to despair about his situation. But Horohoro has realized that while he and Kororo's abilities might not be that high, he intends to use the oversouls of the Icemen. And with all that spiritual power combined, it actually surpasses Blocken's building blocks. But Blocken says it's foolish because that would be more Furyoku than Horohoro even has. And that could basically kill him if he tries to force it. But Horohoro sees Blocken's fear as, him having the potential to do it. The potential to use the spirit. And he realizes that even the most vicious of predators have prey they could never hope to actually go after. Blocken's basically just like, try it. If you fail, your mind will snap and you'll probably die. And Horohoro decides he will take those odds. He feels he won't die, because he feels like he'll have the home field advantage. And there you have it. In all versions, Ren is saved from death, and an ally of Yo uses multiple spirits in order to overcome the minions of Hao. But this is used as a moment for Horohoro to shine, as, basically the story is trying to get, Ren, Horohoro, and Chocolove on the same level as Yo, Ryu, and Faust. They kind of were lagging behind, so they each have a brief moment in order to power them up. Ren's was his near-death moment, this is Horohoro, and Chocolove's will has his later. Whereas in the original anime, they can't really do that because they're already in the desperate final battle, and Ren's pretty much the priority for the most part. Lyserg had his power up in order to give him a gigantic oversoul, which is kind of their thing in the original anime. So Lyserg has the giant angel morphine, and since Ren is such a popular character, he got a little bit of a power up as well. And that's about it. Like, you're in the final stretch for the original anime. All in all, I really do prefer Ren's near-death experience in the manga, of course, because, it doesn't have to be rushed, and it comes from a place of Ren wanting to repent for what he did to Chrom, which isn't really a staying point so much for Ren. Yeah, I had to go back a little bit, but while Ren did defeat Chrom in order to get his Oracle Bell, it's kind of hinted that he just kind of really injured Chrom and didn't so much kill him, so Ren doesn't really have that baggage. No, I'm seeing it here now. Yeah, he did die. He was killed, but it's not really like a big thing here. I don't know. I prefer Ren having that guilt within his soul, and that gets him injured, and then he has to kind of come to terms with what he did and live in order to atone for that. I guess it feels like such a non-entity because you have Silva and Calum fighting against Necrom and Zinc in the original anime, instead of having it be a confrontation with Ren, like I feel like it kind of should be. I don't know, it's hard to say. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you prefer Ren having this kind of guilt trip and even allowing himself basically to be killed in order to atone? Or do you want it to be that Ren was simply just trying to save his friends and got injured because he was a little careless? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notification. And until the next episode of What's the Difference, the Shaman King Edition, I hope you'll check in soon. Till then, bye-bye.